Hey guys, I'm filming in a different area of my room and seeing how I like it. Maybe it'll be my new spot, maybe I'll move back to the old one. Anyway, the Hawthorne Powell bookstores in Portland, one of my favorite places in the world, is doing a whole thing on the poets of Instagram. So I decided that I would really like to talk about some of my favorite poetry, because poetry is really cool now, right? Okay, so I really can't talk about poetry without talking about one of the most influential poets from my childhood, Ogden Nash. So Ogden Nash is kind of a funnier poet and pretty lighthearted. It was my mom's favorite poet, and she would read me poems for my bedtime stories sometimes. So a lot of things like Custard the Cowardly Dragon. Belinda lived in a little white house with a little gray kitten and a little black mouse and a little yellow dog and a little red dragon and a really little pet dragon. I think I got that wrong, but that story. Two other ones, like The Strange Case of Mr. and Mrs. Donnybrook's Boredom, which has a much darker ending than I think I realized it did when I was a kid. But the humor and everything from Ogden Nash's poems actually really inspired me when I started writing poetry in college. Fun fact, I spent a summer doing an intensive poetry workshop in Greece. So I got to live on an island and meet a bunch of really cool poets, which lead me to some of my other influential poets. A.E. Stallings, who ran the poetry workshop. So I got to do a ton of work with her. She's originally from Athens, Georgia, and now lives in Athens, Greece, and is just an amazing poet. I learned so much from her. So she has a lot of poetry that is kind of Greek inspired. So if you're into anything dealing with Greek culture or Greek myths, she's a really good poet to check out along the same lines, and also somebody that I met during my poetry workshop is Roger Green. So this one I actually bought from Roger Green while I was there, and he signed it with good wishes to Gretchen. I love it. This other one is one that he wrote about living on Ida, so he does a lot of stuff that's also inspired from Greek culture and Greek mythology. And this one also has a really fun poem about the banana tree on Leonard Cohen's property, which Roger Green can look out on. So really funny. At least look up that poem if you haven't read any of those. More recent poets that I've gotten into, Milk and Honey. Everybody has probably heard of this. I think it's one of the books of poetry that has kind of like helped the genre become cool again. But it is really good. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I would highly recommend people read it. I reread it. It's one of the books that I keep in my personal library and actually do reread. Recent pickup of mine from the whole Instagram poets is Amanda Lovelace, The Princess Saves Herself in this one. I love this book of poetry. Her style is really interesting. Each of the individual poems can hold up on their own, but the whole thing together tells kind of a story from a princess who is a damsel in trouble to one who saves herself and becomes her own queen and loves herself. It's a really good book of poetry for anybody who's had like tumultuous breakups. If you've gone through like a really emotionally painful breakup or been in an abusive situation, then there's definitely poetry in here that you'll probably really connect with. And another poet that I've been really into lately, I just recently picked up her book, she's newer, is Rena Biddy, and this is I Love My Love. It's definitely not a casual read to me. It was one that I think is really fitting depending on what type of a mood you're in. It's really good for anybody who also has had some like really bad experiences in relationships or tends to find yourself in a situation where you care more, or you pick people who just happen to not be in situations where they want to be in a long-term relationship. One of the things that drew me to start flipping through this book when I was at the store is what she wrote on the back. The girl who writes poems about loving too hard and not being loved hard enough. And I think that is definitely a feeling that isn't that uncommon. So those are my current picks for poets that I've really loved and influenced me, and are newer ones that I really enjoy reading. If you read poetry and have any book recommendations or thoughts on any of them, please leave them in the comments. If you like this video, please remember to give it a thumbs up and subscribe. My goal right now is to try to get up to 100 subscribers, and I plan on trying to do something special in a video to thank everybody who helps me reach that goal. So thank you for watching. Bye!